Alright, so as requested, I have another how to make future bass in Ableton tutorial.
I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, it's true.
Now this track is one of my best songs so far. So if you guys want these project files, leave a comment below saying, give me the project files, bro. And I will make another video showing you the whole song breakdown, and I'll give away the project files in that video. So if you guys want it, you know what to do, subscribe, leave a comment below. But with that said, let's get straight into it. Okay, now before we get stuck right into it, I just want to emphasize that it's not just having big kicks and big snares and big synths that will make your song feel huge. It has more to do with the songwriting and where to put those big ones and where to layer those big synths that makes your song feel big. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we can emphasize those moments. So let's listen to this kick and snare pattern I have. Simple kick and snare pattern. As you can see, it's got these two layers in here, these two snares, which add that bounce and add that rhythm to it already. So if I get rid of them, completely loses that bounce to it. So experiment with putting snares in little different places that might add that bounce. All I've done is I've layered those snares, layered those kicks. You can hear that just adds some interest there. Now, listening to that, you can kind of tell where those boosh moments are. And you can see there's one here, one there, and there's another one back here as well. And on those moments, I want to emphasize those moments by adding percussive elements there, helping those percussive elements sound huge. So to do that, I added another layer. Just an explosion, but in context with that, with everything else. So that's the moment there. That's the songwriting that we want to emphasize and make feel big. So to do that, let's add some tom rolls and some reverse kicks. And a reverse kick is just a kick that's been reversed. And in context with everything, that tom roll just rolls into that explosion, and the reverse kick just sucks that explosion in. Now, on top of that, all I have are these 4 layers and a hi-hat layer down here that just really help fill out the backing of the song, of the drum loop. So that's it. We got a nice groove there in that in those drums. Now what we want to do is we want to add that groove and emphasize that groove with our synths. Now, as you can see, I've got these 3 different layers here: a lead, 2 top layers, and then I also have 2 bottom layers, bass layers here. Let's listen to these individually. Now these 2 layers are playing the exact same chords, nothing too exciting here. It's in the scale of D minor, I think, this one. And the only difference between the two synths, which are just 2 sawtooths with some simple detuning and a low pass filter, and the only difference is the top layer is using some OTT to give it that crispiness, which I showed in another video. You can check that video out up here on how to use OTT. So you can hear when I play this, the start of it opens up, yeah, it's like, whoa, and that there, I did that because I wanted to allow the first explosion to shine through and take the highlight and then play these synths to make the explosion feel big, yeah, because that's what it does. It feels big. So to do that, all I did was I added an auto filter. Now, if I just play this like without it, you can kind of hear it sounds boring, yeah? But with it, it just winds it in and allows the rest of the stuff to breathe. Now, I did that on everything. I did it on that layer, and both my bass layers. Sub bass, you can't really hear it too much because it's already low. Now, in these bass layers, I've got this high bass, which is just a simple sawtooth with all of the low frequencies rolled off because I want to create room for the sub bass, and all of the high frequencies rolled off because I want to create room for these two super saws. Now that there, I'll show you the importance of that in a second. Now this one here, the sub bass, is just a sawtooth with all of the highs rolled off. That's without it rolled off, with it rolled off. Now it looks like that these two are playing at different notes, but they're actually playing the same notes. Now this is just the lowest notes of the chords. That's always a really good way to know that your bass is in key with the rest of your song. But this one here is also playing the lowest notes of the chords, except I just shifted this up 1 octave. Now the reason I did that is because the sub bass should always sit in between the 80 and 30 hertz range. If it's not sitting in that range, your song is just going to lack that punch. So it is so important. This trick, or this tip, is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. Get your sub bass sitting in that range. Now, on top of that, to help the groove, you can see I've got these empty spaces here. Now, I create empty space where I had those big punchy moments in my drums, because that's the highlight of the empty space. When the empty space, the synth starts playing, that's the highlight. Then it bounces back to the drums again. And this is where your songwriting comes in, and your songwriting is so important. So let's listen to this with the empty space. You can hear how much of a difference that makes. I also did that down in this other second drop here, but I added a few other elements in between that to change up the two different drops. And that just like keeps the listener interested later on in the song. So this trick is another important trick. Empty space. Now for the lead here, when we listen to this, sounds big, but it's just not big enough on the high end of the audio spectrum. So I wanted to add a lead that would take up that section. So this is the lead. Now you can see this is just basically a couple of sawtooths here with a sample and hold filter, which is pretty cool. It can completely destroy your sound, but just give it that crispiness if used really subtly. But what I've also got is I've got an EQ8 on this, and what this EQ does is it removes all the low frequencies and all the high frequencies to help it blend in with the super saws better. I'm going to show you without the EQ8. You can hear how much it stands out and just cuts into your eardrums, makes them bleed almost. But if you add this, beautiful, love it. So one last secret little tip I'm going to show you guys is another songwriting tip, obviously, is to create contrast between your build and your drop. Now, what I mean by that is make your build feel emptier than your drop. So let's listen to this build.
I don't have enough time, I don't have enough
So you can hear as the build gets closer to the drop, I've added a filter here to remove all of those high frequencies. So when the drop hits and it has those high frequencies, it has a nice contrast and makes it feel bigger. So this is another awesome tip that I recommend you should do on nearly all of your songs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. Or if you want a whole bunch of free stuff, you can visit my website at offthebeat.com.